Another practice is in the books for the Miami Dolphins, and so many things happen. The offense and Tua exploded in the second half of practice. Minkah and Jason Marshall Jr. forced the first turnovers for the defense so far at training camp. And, well, the Dolphins added some legitimate cornerback help. And not just one player, but two today. We got a ton to cover, a ton to discuss. Do me the favor, smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. And oh yeah, we got a bunch of training camp highlights too. Let's go, baby. Let's get into this one.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field on the near side, man open, touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. It's not over the touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan.
Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. And we got so much to discuss here today. The Dolphins have added some legitimate cornerback help, as well as we're going to go over all of the training camp details. We got a Cam Wolf NFL Network interview with Tua Tagovailoa as soon as practice ended. So, man, we got so much to discuss, to really discuss today, and we are going to get all into it. If you didn't see, though, before we get into Dolphins talk here, Shemar Stewart, I know we've talked about this in a bunch of opening segments here on the channel. Shemar Stewart and the Cincinnati Bengals, they did come to an agreement. So his holdout is officially over. He is good to go. And man, I tell you, it's very interesting how that all went down. Basically what happened was Shemar Stewart did have to agree to some changed language, but now he's got a fully guaranteed $18.97 million. So he did agree to contract language that could void future guarantees, but in return, the team moved up roughly about $500,000 of his signing bonus, and they paid that out immediately. So, you know, the drama is over for a rookie. I think that's some good news for the Cincinnati Bengals, because it was starting to not look real good there for them at all. What, you know, it's kind of crazy. And then I also I forgot to mention this a couple days ago, so I do got to say this. Shout out to the Honey Badger for a great career. The Honey Badger retired, Tyrann Mathieu. So, man, that was a real good player right there in his prime. In his prime, the Honey Badger was most definitely one of the best safeties in football. So, that's very interesting. Another thing interesting, too, let's talk about this. Minkah Fitzpatrick. If you guys didn't hear, Minkah Fitzpatrick has apparently changed his representation. And apparently, and you're going to love this one, no, he didn't go with Athletes First, but apparently he has hired Drew Rosenhaus. And he is looking for a new contract. So he is looking for new money. Minkah Fitzpatrick has hired Drew Rosenhaus as his new agent. So that's going to be very interesting. Remember, Drew Rosenhaus also represents Zach Sealer right now. So Zach Sealer's in the middle of a contract discussion. Now Drew Rosenhaus represents Minkah, who's looking for some more money. The good thing, I can say here is Rosenhaus and the Miami Dolphins have a fantastic relationship. I think something's going to get done here for sure. So, I mean, that is a legitimate positive news for, I think, the Dolphins, us fans, and just anyone who wanted to avoid any kind of big-time drama, right? That is a big move for Minkah Fitzpatrick, and I've been telling all y'all he's gonna get some money here. He's at least gonna get money for this year. I mean, that's just where we're at. I've already come to terms with that. I came to terms with that a while ago, that the money is coming. So, yeah, let's see how it all plays out. But some interesting developments on the Minkah Fitzpatrick front, as he still has not talked to the media, and he probably just, he's a quiet guy. He leads by example on the field. He knows what questions are probably coming down the pipeline, and he just doesn't want to probably deal with that. So, I do think they're going to get him out there in front of people to talk, though. I really do. So maybe we hear him next week. Remember, the pads do come on next week on Tuesday. All right? So just remember, keep that in mind, that the pads do come on next Tuesday. So we're only about 3 days away from padded practice. All right? So we're going to get some hitting. We're going to get some live action. It's going to be beautiful stuff, man. So shout out to everyone in the chat. Already over 200 of you in the chat already. So keep smashing that like button as you come through. Do me the favor. It really helps me out with my friend Algorithm. We got a ton of stuff to get into today for you guys. And before we do, you know what I got to do. And that is, I got to shout out today's sponsor. Of course, that would be Clean the World. And Clean the World, they work with over 8,300 hospitality partners to divert their soap bars and plastic amenities from landfills and recycle the collected soap into new bars. By doing so, Clean the World helps reduce pollution, save water, and decrease the carbon footprint of thousands of hotels globally, while improving the lives of men, women, children, and communities all across the world. Since it was established in 2009, Clean the World has distributed over 80 million bars of soap. The organization has also diverted 9 million pounds of plastic amenity and over 29 million pounds of total waste from landfills, and helped Clean the World provide an estimated 17 billion individual hand washes to those in need across the globe. By recycling soap and other discarded hygiene products, Clean the World saves lives with items that traditionally end up in landfills. You can donate or even volunteer to help Clean the World's cause at cleantheworld.org. That's cleantheworld.org. All right, let's get into the news. And it started off today. We'll go chronological. We got a couple of news items to hand out here. So number one, it started off early this morning for the Miami Dolphins when they added free agent Jack Jones, who started 16 games for the Raiders. He's signing a one-year deal with the Miami Dolphins per source. Jones now returns to the AFC East. Remember, he used to start for the Patriots in 2022 and 2023. I think, this is what I think is happening. I think this is them showing Rasul Douglas, we're not moving, bro. We are not moving. And that's what they're showing now. You look at Jack Jones, he's primarily last year for the Raiders, primarily a boundary guy, had over 800 snaps on the boundary, had under 50 in the slot. So this is a guy who could potentially add into that mix of guys who could start opposite of Kader, Kohou, who we'll get into in a little bit. But this is another boundary wide corner that you can add. And I like this deal. At the end of the day, Jack Jones, he's only 27 and a half. He's not into his 30s like a guy, like Rasul Douglas, right? And hey, man, Rasul Douglas had 0 interceptions last year. Jack Jones had 3. He's had 7 over the last 3 years. Now, last year was the first year he was given real starter snaps. He played over 1,000 snaps last year. Listen, he allowed 115.8 passer rating and coverage. He allowed 10 touchdowns in coverage. So it wasn't that great. What he does offer, though, what's interesting is he does offer a little bit of a guy who can, you can rush him off the edge too. He's a quick guy, man. So I like, you can rush him, off the edge. You can rush him off the boundary with with different looks. It's a decent signing. They signed one of the better, guys out there that were available. I mean, let's be real here. Now, for me, I think that, this is a guy who can play in both man and zone coverage. You know what I mean? I think he's capable of both. So he adds you some versatility in terms of the looks you want to give defensively. But he's not a world breaker. He's not a massive impact player or massive playmaker that they added here into the cornerback room. But he's a guy who can make some plays for your defense. And I think if you get him into the rotation and you're not leaning on him as a full-time starter, that's probably the most ideal situation. I don't think Mike Hilton being added all of a sudden pushes a guy like Storm Duck all the way to the back of the line. I just don't think that's the case. I think it's still going to be an open battle, and Jack Jones has just been added to the fray. And like I said, is this them taking a stand against Rasul Douglas and his asking price? You got to ask yourself that question here right now, because Rasul Douglas clearly isn't looking to come up from the number he's got in his head, while on the flip side, Jack Jones is coming here for, it's a 1-year deal. And the fact of the matter is, they didn't announce terms, and I can't imagine it's going to be real huge. Now, the other reason why I think this is because there was a development last night with Rasul Douglas, in case you didn't hear or see what happened. So Josina Anderson, all right, you guys all know who Josina Anderson. She's known for her NFL reporting and such, right? She reported yesterday that Miami was informed Rasul Douglas was moving on from their offer. So she reported yesterday, I'll tell you exact time so you guys have a timestamp, at 6:37 p.m. Eastern last night, Josina Anderson reported that free agent cornerback Rasul Douglas didn't move on an offer from the Miami Dolphins Thursday. Douglas continues to field interest from multiple teams per league sources. And then when they announced the Jack Jones signing today, she said, and now after Miami was informed Rasul Douglas was moving on from their offer, they signed, Jack Jones. So this clearly looks like, Rasul Douglas was their priority. Rasul Douglas came and told them, hey, no, I'm not taking that offer. I'm not interested. And now they've moved on to the next one on their list. And that is, of course, Jack Jones. So Rasul Douglas is gone. He's out of the picture. It's sayonara. Jack Jones is what they're going with in terms of a boundary option right now. So we'll see. Now, the Dolphins weren't done. After camp today, the Dolphins went ahead and they signed former Bengals safety Mike Hilton. Right? This was reported by Jordan Schultz. Got a guy with 13 career interceptions. This is after we signed Jack Jones this morning as well. Now, I like this move. This is someone I mentioned after Artie Burns went down. I mentioned Mike Hilton. I literally said, you might as well go sign Rasul Douglas, Asante Samuel Jr. for the boundary, and then you might as well go sign Mike Hilton to take those slot snaps that Artie Burns is going to void. Now, they're still off of rotations. Kohou's still going to be in the slot, and he's still going to take some slot snaps. But this is just further confirmation to me that primarily they love what they saw in the second half of last season, and Kader Kohou is going to be working on the boundary more this year. So Mike Hilton being added to this, you've now added kind of a slot specialist. I like this deal a lot. Can I be honest with you? Listen, I might like this deal more than them signing Artie Burns. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I might like this more than them signing Artie Burns. Now, he doesn't give you the gunner ability that Artie Burns gives you. Right? He's not going to be a gunner for you. Because he hasn't been a gunner in recent years at all. He's just basically on field goal blocking units or whatever. But Mike Hilton, he's 31, right? He can force some turnovers. Again, he's a slot specialist, and we kind of needed that with Kohou having to take on more boundary responsibilities and Artie Burns going down. So I actually like this deal. Last year was his worst year in terms of NFL passer rating when targeted, and he only let up 3 touchdowns. The 2 years prior to that, between 2022 and 2023, he only allowed 2 touchdowns in coverage. In 2023, he only allowed an NFL passer rating of 78.5. That was like the second best of his career. So I think this is actually a really solid move. I think the Miami Dolphins went out between Mike Hilton and, of course, adding Jack Jones early this morning. I think they've legitimized this corner room a little bit more. I really honestly do. And now, can I tell you this much? If Kohou wins that job opposite Kader Kohou, if Cam Smith, I don't think it's going to happen, but if Cam Smith wins that job, if Isaiah Johnson wins that job, they had to beat out a guy who took over 1,000 snaps last year with the Vegas Raiders, a guy who was a key rotational piece in New England, especially when Belichick was there. And you know how Belichick loved his corners. So, I think this would legitimize a Storm Duck winning the battle or an Isaiah Johnson win the battle. Now, if they don't win the battle and Jack Jones wins the battle, at least you can find some solace where it's a guy with legitimate experience under his belt. I like this. This is what I said to do with Rasul Douglas. Don't guarantee Rasul Douglas. And that's why I don't think they wanted to give a ton of money to Rasul Douglas. That's why I don't think they wanted to come up on their offer with Rasul Douglas. Because they were not guaranteeing him anything. They were telling him, no, you're going to go in and you're going to battle. We like our young guys. You got to go prove you can go beat them and you can earn that stuff. This is nothing being handed to you. And I think you got to take the same approach with Jack Jones. Nothing being handed to you. Last year, he had a passer rating allowed of over 115. He allowed 10. Yeah, he had 3 picks, but he allowed 10 touchdowns in coverage like I told y'all. Are you going to guarantee anything to that guy? No. So I like this. This gives Storm Duck, Isaiah Johnson, Ethan Bonner, Cam Smith, another veteran to watch how he works, how he prepares, who can come in and share his knowledge and share what he sees and how he works and how he operates with these guys. It's just another veteran mind added to the room. I like it. So, I think Mike Hilton, though, I like that signing better because that's a guy I've been talking about adding. I think Mike Hilton, adding him to the slot is fantastic. For where we are right now, I think adding Mike Hilton to that slot, that is good stuff. For real. That is some fantastic stuff right there, okay? So I'm here for it. I like, all of a sudden, we all a couple of days ago, you heard a giant sigh, not of relief, but like a giant sigh from Dolphin Nation when they added Cornell Armstrong, because a lot of us were like, okay, well, they didn't really add a legitimate guy. But that's because they were still trying to hammer something down with Rasul Douglas. Now with Rasul Douglas announcing to the Dolphins that he's moving on from their offer, look at how quickly they worked. Look at how quickly they went out there. And they added not 1, they added 2. And I bet you the 2 they added were for the price of what Rasul Douglas was asking for, or what they're offering Rasul Douglas. Just saying. And maybe this shows you they're also not overly confident in where Asante Samuel is going to be in terms of where, with his neck coming off that injury. That's another thing you got to think about too, because they were willing to wait on Rasul Douglas. It seems they aren't willing to wait on a guy like Asante Samuel Jr. Yeah, G. Reed, the Miami Dolphins, they signed Jack Jones, former Patriots and Raiders corner. And then after practice today, they signed Mike Hilton, slot corner, former Bengal. So they've upgraded the cornerback room. They've made much better moves than the, Cornell Armstrong move that they did a couple days ago, right? So great stuff. Love to see it. Love to hear it, right? So we ain't done. We are going to get into a bunch of training camp reports right now. We're going to go over Travis's report. It's detailed. We're going to go over as well the Miami Herald and the Sun Sentinel, what they said. We've got a bunch of training camp highlights for you guys today. All right. We've got about, let me do the math for you here. We've got about 5 minutes worth of training camp highlights. All right. 5 minutes of training camp highlights. Shout out to the homie Cash. That's my homie right there. And shout out to Tommy and Hiley. They provided the clips. So we got about 5 minutes of training camp highlights. And then there's about a 6-minute interview that aired on the NFL Network. Tua Tagovailoa sat down with Cam Wolf. We'll play that. So we got a ton to go over. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into everything. And as usual, let's start out with the best in the business, and that is Travis Wingfield. So starting at the bottom and working our way up on these. First 3 reps of one-on-ones with wide receivers and DBs are wins by the DBs. Tyreek got separation on Minkah, but Tua missed him. Duck was all over Waddle for a pass breakup, and then Kader strapped Izakama. Tyreek Black hauls in a long ball over Bonner, who was in good shape in coverage, but Black high points it. Tua hits back-to-back touchdowns, one to Andrew Armstrong and a deep shot to A.J. Henning. A.J. Henning showing that speed, in one-on-ones. Kader Kohou went down in a rep against Tyreek in one-on-ones. He's awfully slow to get up and being helped to the side by trainers. We'll have, I'll show you a highlight of that exact play where Kader went down. We'll have that highlight when we get into the highlights for you guys. Jack Jones jumps a Zach Wilson throw in one-on-ones and almost picks it, but can't finish the catch. Look at Jack Jones already making plays. Kader is up and walking back into the building under his own power. Team period underway with a Brooks run stuff. He gets over the top of the formation to shut down an outside Achane run. Sealer penetration inside took away the cutback lane. Next play, Achane hits the wineback lane with a wicked jump cut. Minkah met him at the second level. Madison hits a cutback lane on the first rep with Zach Wilson under center. Brunskill and Carmen folded down the backside for him to find daylight. Looked like an explosive play to me. Zach Wilson rips a throw into the honey hole from the far hash, finds Eskridge over the curl flat defender under the safety. Really nice shot. Rookie safety John Sanders makes another play. Look at this kid, 2 days in a row, putting together a solid first week. Ewers tried Black on a deep shot, but Sanders went up and knocked it away. Got up off the ground with a real primal scream. High energy player. Channing Tindall and KJ Britt both had tag-off stops at the line of scrimmage on running plays. Jordan Brooks is playing fast and free. He's beating the line to their landmarks on these wide runs. He's got in on 3 plays so far in just 6 or 7 rundown reps. Holy jeez. Pay that man. Another good rip from Wilson on a ball over the middle. Armstrong had Elijah Campbell on his hip, but the ball was on the upfield shoulder. Look at Zach Wilson making some throws today after Ewers had a day. Benito Jones with a quick pass rush win on Andrew Meyer, and it's a sack on Tua. Willie Gay swats a quick throw from Tua looking for Reek. He's disrupted at least 1 to 2 pass plays in coverage every day this camp. Patrick Paul swallows up Chubb on a reach block around the corner that gives Achane a step. He came off the block screaming. Chubb tried to disengage, but Patrick Paul had the vice on him. Minkah interception. Chop turns the corner on Larry Borum, who I reported to y'all has been moved from guard to out to left tackle when training camp started, and probably has a big hit on Zach Wilson for a sack, but Zach takes a deep shot and Minkah flies over like Superman and makes the pick. I'll have that highlight for you, 2 angles of that for you today when we get into the highlights. Jordan Phillips stacks an Ollie Gordon run, stacks Addison West and Shedham for the hit on Ollie Gordon inside. Ewers hits Tyreek Black on a corner route that looked like a room service pick for Jason Marshall, but he mistimed his jump and Black makes the catch. Marshall looked like he can't believe it. Well, Marshall makes up for it later here. Kenny G in on the action, stacking up an inside run from Jalen Wright. He and Benito Jones planted their flags and gave Wright no room. Defense is playing with some fire in that first period. Pretty clear win for that side. Anthony Weaver was leading the charge with the guys showing some juice. Jack Jones reroutes Eskridge. Another pressure forces out quick. And Jack Jones gets back into phase and squeezes the window incomplete. Jack Jones making multiple plays already. I love it. Alex Madison with another nice rip, this time with an excellent edge folded in by Pharaoh Brown, who hits a first down pose after the run. Madison running it great today. Cornell Armstrong drives on a slant, gets a pass breakup on a Zach Wilson throw to A.J. Henning. Jason Marshall gets a pass breakup 1 rep. Next rep, he draws man coverage, stays in phase on the takeoff, gets his head back, and makes the pick going to his back along the sideline. Great play by the rookie. Ewers on the throw. We will have that highlight for you guys as well. Tua back in, rips a shot to Waddle over for 20 over the middle. Next play, Sealer introduces Patrick Paul to his famous swim move and blows the run up in the backfield. Jack Jones, really nice rep passing off coverage, flipping the hips, running to the corner on the same play. Pat and Jonah were in unison, passing off the rush game up front. Good rep. Zach Wilson with another nice rip, this time a corner route, but he's hit that hole under the safety and over the curl defender a few times today. Grayson Murphy takes the corner on Ryan Hayes and heats up Ewers for a would-be big hit. Long developing play action shot has Waddle open down the middle as Tua hits him for 30-ish yards. Devon Achane takes a carry around the corner, beats Brooks and Chubb with speed. Tanner Connor issues a punishing pancake downfield on Kendall Sheffield. Explosive play led to the block on the tight end and the speed of the back. Defense is bringing the heat today. Threw in an exotic blitz at Tua there, and he hung in there and found Waddle for a hot completion. Offense is settling in against all these different things the defensive front is throwing at them. Now Zach has all day to throw, surveys the entire field, and comes back to Eskridge with a bullet over the middle. Tua and Bev both come and dap Zach up for the play. Willie Gay is all over the route to the outside from Izakama, but Wilson paints the corner and finds a completion. Ben Stilley doesn't take the cheese on the bootleg and closes down Ewers' escape hatch. Ewers floats one, but here comes Jack Jones from out of nowhere for the breakup. Monterey Baldwin hits Cam Smith with a double move. Nice concept that brought a route in front of Smith that he jumped. Baldwin sneaks in behind him, and Ewers had it timed well for that long TD. There you go. Ewers bouncing back and throwing some TDs here. Tua to Tyreek, 60-yard touchdown. Tua loads up, resets his feet. All day to throw. Reek gets on top of Ashton Davis. Storm Duck was the corner in coverage for the score. Absolute dime. Willie Gain has Achane dead to rights at the line of scrimmage, but Devon Achane puts his foot in the ground and gets all the way back out the backside to take advantage of Patrick Paul walling off Chubb for another explosive. Tua hits Waddle for another explosive, 20 yards in the air, 10 more after the catch. That was 4 straight plays of 20-plus yards to end practice, 3 of them probably home run touchdowns, and that's it. What a show today. So the offense came alive today, really in that second half of practice. Tua dropping dimes. Zach Wilson out here just painting the corner of the field. I mean, let's go. Even Ewers bouncing back from the interception. Gotta love what we are seeing. And Willie Gay, big play. Willie Gay continues to be all over the field and continues to really be showing up for that defense, man. But like, let's be honest here. One of the most encouraging things is how many times were we mentioning a guy like Jack Jones in that report from Travis? Shout out to Jack Jones, man. That is absolutely huge stuff. Like, that is massive. Like, Jack Jones not wasting any time to come in and start making his presence felt. You'll love to see it. You love to see it. Huge stuff, man. Scotty, who was there today, said Ewers threw a touchdown and 2 on the next play, hit Hill for a touchdown. I love to see it. Reason Wilson was terrible today. I was there. Man, I've said that I've heard that he's erratic, that he's all over the place. You know? And well, yeah, we're gonna get into that. Don't worry. We're gonna talk about that. So I see what you said, Cam. Don't worry, we're gonna get into that real soon. So don't worry. All right, let's get into what the Miami Herald had to say today. This is what the Miami Herald, their observations from camp. They said the Dolphins augmented their weakest position by signing 2 veteran cornerbacks, Jack Jones and Mike Hilton. They also saw 2 cornerbacks leave practice early. Kader Kohou sustained a leg injury when he got tangled up with Tyreek Hill during the quarterback receiver drills, but ultimately was able to walk off the field under his own power. Kohou was on the ground for about a minute after the injury, got up limping, and fell to the ground after taking a few steps, then got back up. He walked gingerly into the locker room with staff, but a bit hobbled in his gait, but not showing the pronounced limp from minutes earlier. That was an encouraging sign. Meanwhile, rookie cornerback B.J. Adams left after being shaken up. He showed no visible limp, but was placed on a stretcher, suggesting a possible concussion or hydration issues. Jack Jones, wearing number 23, worked with Mike McDaniel on footwork early in the first Dolphins practice and then broke up a pass to Tyreek Black during drills with quarterbacks and receivers. During team drills, he forced Tyreek Black to change his route, resulting in an incomplete pass. At this point, I would handicap the top 6 corners as Kader Kohou, Hilton, Jones, Storm Duck, Cam Smith, and Jason Marshall Jr., who will almost assuredly be on the 53-man roster barring an injury. Hilton was flying to Miami on Saturday. On Saturday, Marshall made a great play in coverage and completed it with an interception return for a touchdown on an errant Quinn Ewers pass. Dolphins safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's hired Drew Rosenhaus as his agent. So there you go. If Fitzpatrick signs a new deal with guaranteed money, it could be structured in a way to give the Dolphins cap relief. So there you go. Fitzpatrick had the play of the day, extending his arms to make a dynamic interception on Zach Wilson. On a Zach Wilson 35-yard throw to Tajay Washington. That was the Dolphins' first interception at camp. Ifeatu Melifonwu on the non-football injury list was working on the side with trainers. Dante Trader Jr., the 5th-round safety, was missing for a second day in a row. A false start began the Dolphins' first drive, which was appropriate because that has been a recurring problem throughout camp. Tua Tagovailoa misfired to Tyreek Hill on the first downfield throw. Tagovailoa has gone 4 days without throwing a touchdown pass or interception, though he did throw several TDs on one-on-one drills and again played well overall. He was solid again on Saturday, completing multiple intermediate passes, including 10 yards to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and a 22-yarder to Hill. He completed a deep crosser for 45 yards to Hill, beating Ashton Davis and Ethan Bonner. Remember, Travis said it was 60 yards. They're saying it's 45 yards. That's a big disparity. That's a big difference. And then he hit Waddle for about 20 yards in practice. Right guard James Daniels, coming off a week 4 Achilles injury, was back to doing 2 sets of 11-11 team drills. His workload is varying by the day. Alexander Madison broke into the open field for 2 long runs and had another nifty run for 15 yards and another. It's a competitive battle between Madison and Ollie Gordon for the number 3 job. Gordon has looked good at times, but fumbled earlier this week, and Channing Tindall stood him up in the backfield for a loss today. Zach Wilson completed a 30-yarder to D. Eskridge and a 20-yarder to Andrew Armstrong, one of 4 undrafted receivers trying to stick. Rookie safety John Sanders had good coverage on an incomplete bomb from Wilson to Tyreek Black. Armstrong also caught a touchdown from Tagovailoa in quarterback receiver drills. He also connected with A.J. Henning on a touchdown in those drills. Henning later dropped a pass in 11-11s. The 4th undrafted rookie receiver, Monterey Baldwin, caught a 50-yard touchdown pass from Quinn Ewers, beating Cam Smith. Tyreek Hill juked out cornerback Cornell Armstrong for a nice gain. Armstrong was well suited to play the slot, rebounded later by breaking up a Wilson pass. Armstrong hasn't appeared in any NFL games in the past 2 years. Linebacker Jordan Brooks snuffed out a Jalen Wright run for no gain. Brooks has had an excellent camp. Willie Gay Jr. knocked down a Tagovailoa pass. Gay has been very disruptive during the first 4 days of practice. The other new veteran linebacker, KJ Britt, stopped a run for a loss on Saturday. Quinn Ewers threw his first interception, which was intercepted by Marshall Jr. and returned for a touchdown. Marshall made a great play on the sideline, managing to catch it while falling to the ground and then getting up to run toward the end zone. Earlier, Ewers delivered a 15-yard strike to Black on sideline pattern. He had another pass sail on him. Kenneth Grant had a sack on a blitz and stopped right on a run for a very short gain. Jordan Phillips stopped Ollie Gordon run for no gain. Chop Robinson had a good day. He applied pressure on Wilson on the Fitzpatrick interception. Benito Jones beat Andrew Meyer for a sack on Tagovailoa. Defensive lineman Matt Dickerson sacked Wilson. Dickerson's second splash play of camp. A reminder that tackling is not permitted and players will not be in pads until Tuesday. A Wilson pass was nearly intercepted by Elijah Campbell. Wilson completed a 10-yard pass to Tajay Washington, who's trying to make the team after spending the rookie season on injured reserve. So, I mean, Wilson, the past couple of days, he's had a couple where the defense has dropped interceptions on him, right? He's had a couple interceptions dropped. So, it seems like with Zach Wilson, it's a very, again, like I told y'all, I'm hearing he's flashing nicely, but there's some cringe moments attached to that. Now, Jason Marshall Jr. What I like hearing about Jason Marshall Jr., yeah, he made the play today, but I love hearing that. But what I don't like hearing is what we heard earlier, right? And what we heard earlier about him trying to jump a route and basically him missing the play. And, the reason why I don't like that is, let's be real here. I mean, that's how it turns into, a big play. Now, he did have a pass breakup, so I like hearing that. But, I didn't like that hearing that Ewers was hitting Tyreek Black on that corner route earlier. And, it looked like it should have been an easy pick for Jason Marshall, but he's mistiming his jump, and so Black makes the catch. Those are the type of plays that could burn you in the secondary. But I do like that he bounced back with a PBU and, of course, an interception. I do think Jason Marshall Jr. is going to make this team just based on the fact of his draft status. So, it is what it is. I like hearing that he bounced back. You read Travis and he said Jason Marshall looked visibly, he couldn't believe he didn't make the catch. But he didn't let that get him down. Right? He turned around and made a pass breakup. He turned around and made a pick. You gotta like that about a young kid. For cornerback, just like quarterback, you gotta have the ability to, one of the best abilities you gotta be able to have, outside of obviously your physical gifts and talent and your instincts and stuff, is you have got to be able to wash the last play out of your mind. You've got to be able, if it's a bad play, you got to be able to let it go. And I like how we're seeing that early on from Jason Marshall Jr. That is what my takeaway for Jason Marshall is. It's not even the interception, the pass breakup, or mistiming the jump and allowing a reception. It's the sequence and how he handled himself. That is very impressive. As you guys know, I'm not super high on the Jason Marshall draft pick, but this is good because remember, he was a 5-star recruit. He was pretty much a failed project at Florida. So, hey, if Anthony Weaver and the coaching staff can turn that failed project at Florida into something that can produce at the NFL level, I'm here for it. I'm here for it every day of the week. So, I got no problem being wrong about not liking that pick if that benefits us, especially in that corner room where we need the help, right? So, and I love hearing that Chop Robinson having a good day. You got to love that, eh? Gotta love Chop. All right, Sun Sentinel. So we're going to go over the Sun Sentinel, what they had to say right now. Then we're going to go over about 5 minutes of camp highlights. And then we got about a 6-minute interview with Cam Wolf. So let's get into what the Sun Sentinel had to say. So, Kader Kohou went down with that apparent leg injury. We'll show the highlight, right? Hill cut left on an intermediate route and Kohou went to the ground. Stayed down briefly. Got medical attention on the sideline and then walked gingerly off the field. By the time he reached team facility about 100 yards away, his limp was almost gone. Dolphins haven't worked yet much on red zone or goal line offense. They also haven't thrown as many deep passes at this stage of training camp as they have in previous camps. This might be the work of Bobby Slowick, the new senior pass game coordinator. More pass plays have been intermediate or short. The defense recorded its first 2 interceptions of training camp with Minkah Fitzpatrick and Jason Marshall making the grabs. The secondary led by Fitzpatrick, and without Kohou much of the day, was decent overall after being sluggish all offseason. QBs had a decent day. Tagovailoa was efficient as usual. Zach Wilson, who threw an interception, had a good day overall. That's according to them. Scotty in the chat, who was there, said he didn't have a good day. Quinn Ewers, who shined Friday but threw an interception Saturday, was productive. Hill, who had been low profile through the first 3 days of training camp, had his most active day despite not going deep. Hill's quickness caused Kohou to go down in one-on-one drills early in practice. Jonas Savaianaya was part of a pre-practice hype squad that greets fans and gets them excited. Addison West and Josh Preby did an impressive wrestling move to further entertain and hype up the fans. Rookies usually comprise the pre-practice hype squad. Aaron Brewer, Baron Matos, Jalen Connors, Dante Trader didn't practice today. Brewer, Darren Waller, and Ife Melifanu were seen working with trainers on the side. Jack Jones successfully defended Tyreek Black in a one-on-one drill, getting the crowd excited. Wilson threw a well-placed 20-yard strike to de-escalate over Jason Marshall Jr. and in front of a safety. Wilson threw a dart to Andrew Armstrong later. Wilson, the clear number 2 behind Tagovailoa, has been steady. That's not what I've heard. Fitzpatrick plays much deeper than the other free safeties. I told y'all that I heard Keon Smith was at right guard, and there's confirmation. Right guard Keon Smith took an amount of snaps with the first team in 11-11 drills, replacing James Daniels. The Dolphins have brought Daniels along slowly as he recovers from the Achilles injury that limited him in 4 games last season with Pittsburgh. Willie Gay Jr. batted down a Tagovailoa pass intended for Hill, who was in the slot. The play would probably have gone for a big Gay. Gay was a baller throughout the offseason, and the inside linebackers have performed well throughout the offseason. Fitzpatrick fooled Wilson into throwing deep to wide receiver Tajay Washington. Fitzpatrick drifted over slowly before snatching the pass, which might have been it was overthrown. You'll see the highlight when I play it today. It was overthrown. Kenneth Grant got a sack on Tagovailoa. Grant and Gay both went around Daniels, who didn't know who to block. Nice call by the defense. Jason Sanders, he went 6 for 6 on field goals midway through practice before hitting from 33, 35, 38, 40, 45, and 47. Look at this. Ryan Stonehouse was the holder on each. Jake Bailey handled punting duties on the special teams session that followed. Hill has fielded punts consistently so far, which could mean the Dolphins plan to use him more in that role under Greg Uckerman. The Dolphins have been hesitant to utilize Hill as a punt returner in previous years because of the injury risk. Other punt returners were Waddle, Malik Washington, A.J. Henning, and Monterey Baldwin. Cornell Armstrong signed Thursday, had a pass breakup on a Wilson pass to Tajay Washington. Jason Marshall had an interception on a Ewers pass. Marshall went up high and reached back to snatch the pass out of the air. It was one of the best plays by a CB this camp. Love to hear that. Offensive pre-snap penalties were down. There were only 2, but that's still an issue. This is after having multiple flags each of the previous days. The offense didn't have a single pre-snap penalty on Saturday. Tyreek Black limped off the practice field late on the day. Dolphins introduced an orange jersey to the fans. So there you go. Stock up. The secondary. The Dolphins recorded their first 2 interceptions of training camp today. One by Fitzpatrick, one by Marshall, which was incredibly athletic. The interceptions were welcome considering the Dolphins were -5 in turnover margin last season, with just 10 interceptions, which ranked 23rd in the league. This is what I talked about in my Dante Trader, stuff. Pass rush was on stock down. After recording several sacks over the previous 3 days, mostly by edge rushers, the offensive line tightened up its game Saturday and limited the effectiveness of the pass rush. Now, we will really get a good gauge of that pass rush, come the pads being entered into the situation on Tuesday, all right? Now, I love that the secondary is in stock out. This is what we need. Jack Jones out there making plays. Minkah Fitzpatrick, first open practice to fans. It's just so Minkah to make a pick, huh? Minkah makes the pick. Gotta love that. And then on top of this, Jason Marshall showing out and showing off a little bit. Kader Kohou, I'm praying he's healthy, man. I'm praying he's healthy and he's good to go. They didn't mention B.J. Adams in this, but I'm hoping B.J. Adams is just as healthy too. We need these guys real bad to be contributors this season. We can't afford that at all. So, and love hearing that Kenneth Grant out here getting a sack. The big rook, Kenny G, out here getting a sack for the defense. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful stuff. All right. So let's go. Let's go. Man. Offense explodes in the second half of practice. The secondary making big plays. Guys who have just been signed making big plays. This just was a good day in terms of balance. Getting enough on our plate from the defense and getting enough on our plate from the offense. You gotta love it, man. All right. I got about 5 minutes of training camp highlights for you guys. So let's go ahead and let's get into them for you guys, all right? I gotta show them coming out, make you feel like you're there. All right, there you go. So now you see just getting that stretch in, and here we go. Tua getting loose, getting some work in, some one-on-ones, right? We're going to have one-on-ones and team drills all set up. Nice throw on the inside slant. Beautiful stuff. Tua again. Ooh, finding Tyreek with a little toe tap out to the left. Love it. You get 3 motion, 3 snap. Tua underneath. Find the seam, young man. Achan, gotta love it. End around to Achan, finds that edge, eh? Love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Tua, deep. Boom! There you go. That's a touchdown. Let's go. Touchdown to Tyreek. Here's some more one-on-ones for you. This is where Kohou got hurt. That's the play. You just saw Kohou go down. That's where he got hurt. And this is now Kohou after the play on the ground. That was the one-on-one where Kohou got hurt, though. Just so you guys know. That's why you saw him go down like that. So there he is limping off the field. Some more one-on-ones here. That slant from earlier again. Different angle, though. Tua working up, back up. Gotta love the up-the-middle stuff. Let's go. I've heard there's been a lot more inside zone and gap stuff this training camp so far. There's that Madison run. Big run from Alexander Madison. That would have been a home run, it looks like. Tua takes the handoff, then he hits Waddle coming across underneath. Love it. Woo! Look at it. Oh boy, the explosiveness. That little cut. Zach Wilson, nice little ripper in there. Nice catch though. Wasn't the most accurate thing in the world. Getting that edge again. Not very much, though, from Achan. And then here is, I believe this is the interception by Minkah. Boom. That's an overthrow, right? That is an overthrow, sir. Gotta get those sticks, man. Viewers again in there. Ah, overshooting it. Got him. Gotta have better placement on that ball. Nice throw over the middle. There's Tua. Nice throw over the middle. Another clip of that throw over the middle. Gotta love it. Here's HN getting that edge. Another angle from the play we saw earlier. Yeah, Hill gave Kohou the work you saw in that play. Tua looking back. Nice. So there's about 5 minutes worth of highlights for you guys. I mean, go back, check them out. That's a ton of stuff. We got over 425 of you in the chat. Appreciate y'all. We're not done though. Man, listen, we're going to go over an interview. Cam Wolf and Tua sat down on the NFL Network. We're going to go over that. But, man, that is beautiful stuff. Man, it's just the energy of the fans being back. I can't wait to get down there. I'll be down there for August 19th practice, August 20th practice, and the 21st joint practice. I'll be down there in South Florida from the 18th to the 22nd for those 3 practices. I can't wait. If you guys are there, make sure you stop by and come say hello. So I can't wait. I mean, and I love seeing Tua, Tyreek, Waddle making some plays. You know, from what I understand today too, Westbrook Ikine was making plays as well too today. So great stuff. And you saw HN running inside, getting the edge. Look at that big home run play from Madison. There were a lot of big potential home run plays by the offense today. So love to see that. And the defense, let's go, man. Making the plays. You know, Ewers and Zach Wilson overthrowing footballs, making mistakes, and the secondary making them pay. Love to see that. All right, let's get into Cam Wolf's interview with Tua Tagovailoa from post-practice today.
Fresh off the practice field, Tua, hot day. Seems like Mike McDaniel got some up-downs to end practice. Give us a glimpse at this stage of what you're feeling about this training camp, maybe what's different than previous years.
I think it's hard to sort of put into words the feeling that we have as a team. I only say that because there's so many things that we've said last year and the year before that are pretty consistent with each other, and we kind of didn't get the results we wanted. I don't want to put out there how we feel internally and what we're talking about in our leadership meetings, in our leadership rooms, as a team collectively, but I think this is one of the best that we've felt as a team collectively, but then also from room to room, the leadership that we have positionally, I think it's been probably the biggest step that we've taken this year and that we've seen as a change to the way our production is on the field as a team, and then translating that to meetings, translating that to how we communicate with each other, things of that nature, and then also in a walkthrough.
You know, one of the things that I noticed from the outside looking in, I've never seen you more comfortable in your own skin. Not only in terms of how you play, but in terms of the leadership things or whatever. What have you really worked on to fully embrace being the leader of this team?
I think the one thing that I worked on this offseason was trying to do things with the guys, more so the defensive guys, trying to find things to do. And whether it's coming over the house, whether we're getting on the water to get out on the boat or get out to go eat somewhere, you build that relationship with the guys, but it's a different kind of relationship you're building, right? Everyone comes in the building and it's all surface level talk.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to get into, you know, deeper and meaningful relationships with you know, the guys on both sides of the ball. And it's kind of like a I got your back mentality where we've kind of built this relationship. We've done all these things, you know, to get to know each other, things of that nature. So when we go out there, it's like, it's a no-brainer. I know this guy, like, he got my back. He knows I got his back. All things of that nature. And I think that's where my growth has come from as a leader this past offseason. And I'm still trying to get comfortable in my shoes with a couple other guys, you know, on the team as well. But that takes work, just like anything else.
You mentioned growth and leadership. Like earlier this week, we were talking to you about Tyreek, and obviously he had the moment last year where he says, "I'm out, bro," and everybody saw that. And you talked about the relationship building you have to do. To me, I saw an accountability, a level of leadership that maybe what we wouldn't have saw from you year one, year two. Can you maybe take us through your process there and your relationship there?
No doubt. I would say from that comment last year, it's not like only one person was going to hear that. Like, Cheetah had to have known that, okay, if I'm saying this, I'm going to make sure the team knows. I'm going to make sure the quarterback knows. I'm going to make sure the fans know. I'm going to make sure everybody knows. The league knows. I'm going to keep everybody on notice when I make this comment. And could it have been in the heat of the moment? Sure, you could say that. But at the end of the day, it came out. And whether you portrayed it to be something different because you're a competitor or not, that's not up for you to decide. That's up for people in their own minds to create that, whatever they thought that meant for them, right? And so, just like anybody else, like, yeah, of course, Cheetah's a great player, phenomenal player. But in the locker room, that's where everything, the nitty gritty, the relationships, the hard conversations, like, that's where you build each other up. That's why you kind of work on each other as well. You have those conversations there, And so, Reek is going through his own phase of who he wants to become as a man in this league, who he wants to become as a father for his kids. And I said this in the previous interview. It's never too late for anybody to want to change, man. Like, regardless of what that looks like for them, that's their stepping stone, that's their journey, and that's what it is. And we're still continuing to build that relationship. But if that happened maybe 3 years ago, I can understand what you're saying. I probably wouldn't have, because in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to be talking bad about somebody or, because I wouldn't want that done to me. But I don't feel it's me talking bad about my teammate. Kind of what you said, I'm just trying to hold him accountable, because that's what we're trying to do with everybody on our team. And if this is what we say the standard is, then that's what the standard is, and nobody's exempt from it.
So speaking of the standard, because for so long, the last few years, you guys have been held and kind of viewed as one of the teams that are one of the NFL heavyweights. There's a different feeling around the league when it comes to the Dolphins. Why is that perception off? Why are you guys going to be much better than people anticipate this year?
Well, I think it starts with me. It starts with me not putting myself in situations where I can't be available for this team. And I think in a way it kind of goes from there. If I can stay healthy for our guys, I believe, and I believe the team believes, that I give us the best chance to potentially, go do what we say we want to do. But outside of that, it's the consistency, I think, for our team that has been, man, these guys are good, but then it's too good to be true. Something's about to happen. Boom. Okay, let's say I go down, or let's say something else happens within the team, and then the structure looks messed up, and it's like, oh, now we can't do this, now we can't do that. And so I think it's just the consistency. And a lot of the guys on the team, we hear the noise, we hear all of that, but it's okay. That's okay for everybody to have their opinion about it. Now what we gonna do about it? That's it. What we gonna do about it?
You talk about starting with you, 2023, led the league in passing, MVP candidate, and today I saw you throw a deep bomb to Tyreek. Thank you for your time, and we can't wait to see what y'all put out there on the field for us this year.
I appreciate it, bro.
Back to you, Rhett.
I mean, did he say anything that's wrong? Did he say anything you don't agree with? I mean, he's 110% right. Shout out to Daryl. He says, love hearing good things about the offense. That's real leadership from Tua. I think, listen, at one phase, it's like, you've talked about this over and over again, that you got to protect yourself and that we can't win without you. You've talked about this before, about protecting yourself. We want to see your actions speak louder than words when you take the field this year, because we can't win without you. That's number one. In the regards to the Tyreek thing, I agree with him. I don't think he's talking ish about Tyreek. I think he's stating a fact, man. I agree with everything he said, and you can see the maturity. And even when he's talking about, like, I think when he's talking about how a couple years ago, how he wouldn't have understood everything and he wouldn't have wanted to deal with it. Now he's a dad, he's a husband, he's grown up in the league a little bit. I think you're seeing the maturity come through from Tua. Let's hope that maturity carries over into how he protects himself during games, because we need him to protect himself if this team's going to stand any chance of winning anything significant in 2025. It's just a fact of the matter. Guys, over 425 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. They are off tomorrow. Then they are back on Monday. Pads come on Tuesday. And I'll have you covered through all next week. And then while I'm away the following week, I have a big interview dropping. And I got a couple other things coming. And just to hype that interview, it's going to be one of the biggest guests I've ever had, and one of the biggest guests this community has had during this off season. So y'all are going to want to keep it locked in for that, all right? Fins up all day, every day. Man, hope y'all who went enjoyed training camp, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Until then, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. And shout out to Selbo Live says Tua sounds different. That's Miami for you. Yep, that is. Fins up, baby.